What the heck? That usually doesn't happen. Wait a moment and try again. That usually never happens. Let me see. Let's do this. I guess we'll wait a little bit. That's weird.
Do you have to refresh it or?
Let me try refreshing it. We're gonna bring this back up. Boom. And now let's try it. There we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well. Look what we have here. Guess who's back? Your friendly favorite, you could say controversial possibly after this episode, but most importantly, raw, uncut, truth-telling duo of yours truly, Clifton Pope, and my good friend, Kim Avalos. We are back for, can you believe it? Not episode 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, but episode 6 of the Organic Combat Podcast. Man, it's like we've been literally like super busy, Kim, to where it's like life has been coming at us in like so many different angles and so many different cylinders. But we're here to talk about a couple of things, obviously, because by the time you'll listen to this episode, I mean, today is Friday the 13th, September 13th, 2024. You'll probably be listening to this episode, if not the end of September, early October, because I don't know if you're aware of what's going on, but we are literally in the heat of election season, not just, especially in the national level. Like, man, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of this, because earlier this week, me, Kim, everyone else all around the world, we were watching this quote unquote presidential debate that's been going on. And it's like, there's so much where we can like
debate.
It wasn't really even a debate, to be honest. It was more, it was entertainment.
Yeah.
I've seen people say, man, they should have this on a pay-per-view and all this stuff. But it's like, there's a lot of things that I personally would like to say about the debate within itself. It's like, first and foremost, I mean, the handshake alone, that kind of set the tone a little bit. I mean, Kamala tried to quote unquote impose her will on Donald Trump with the whole handshake from the get-go, which definitely I wasn't expecting that personally, Kim, but at the same time, it's like not surprising. To me, that was more so of just like Kamala trying to let Trump know that I'm not afraid of you and that I'm going to try to take you down and stop you from going back into office and all that. And she kept on calling Donald Trump like the threat to the U.S. economy, not just the
democracy.
U.S. democracy. Excuse me.
It's so regurgitated and overdone by all the Democrats. But it's funny you say that, because I saw it as kind of like a sign of weakness.
It really,
to me, it looked like a sign of weakness because she had to go to him.
Yeah.
He didn't go to her. She had to go to him, and he made her come to him. He didn't even meet her halfway. So
yeah.
Depending how you look at it, either way, if she tried to like assert her dominance, she didn't do a very good job.
Yeah, and you could tell like it was definitely a verbal sparring contest as far as back and forth, who can outdo who and everything. And there were some times where it's like, okay, I mean, this is what my overall takeaway of it. I mean, Kamala Harris, yes, she basically just tried to paint the picture of who she is as an overall quote unquote candidate, so to speak. And it's like,
for that day.
At least for that day and for that particular moment.
That's who she was that day.
Yeah. And here's an interesting report that I actually saw on ABC News about 2-3 weeks ago. There's about 38% of registered voters still don't know who the hell Kamala Harris is as a candidate and want more information before they even consider voting for her. This is on ABC News. You could look this up. I'm not making this up. This was literally one of the headlines that I saw on my phone here that popped up that opened my eye. And to add to that, Kim, about 41% who are independent, who are undecided, said the exact same thing. So that lets you know, are you sure you want to have Kamala Harris be our next president?
Well, I'll tell you what, she's definitely not going to be the most popular president
No.
in history, like her
No.
boss or whatever Joe Biden is now. Is he still her boss? I don't know. I don't think so.
Technically, yes, until the actual election takes place, and then of course the inauguration and all that. So technically, Joe Biden is still Kamala's boss. And here's one, it's funny how we're talking about Joe Biden, because one of the lines that
it's like we just forgot about him, right?
Yeah, it's like now, it's like ever since the transition happened, where, you know, a month ago people were literally trying to ride Joe Biden till the wheels fell off.
Ooh, that was scary.
And the wheels literally fell off because he was the previous debate with him and Trump went so bad that where Trump even questioned his legitimacy as a person. That's how bad it was.
I think he had a lot of Democrats questioning it too. That's what woke a lot of people up, but they were just too far in it to backtrack. And it was like, I'm already here, so I'm just going to keep on trucking. And like you said, the wheels did fall off.
And it's like, and I kid you not, I saw this man up close and in person whenever I went to Washington, D.C. last July for the United States Black Chambers of Commerce National Convention. And I've told you this before, Kim, he does not look like a real person. It's like I was looking there at him the whole time, just sitting there. The whole slow Joe memes and all that stuff, that is real. I don't care what anybody says. I saw it with my own two eyes. He would be talking mid-sentence and then he'll stop. I'll never forget this. This is the one highlight where it's like, something's wrong with this motherfucker. I swear it is. But I can't understand what is wrong with him. But it's like, he was saying something, you know, front row, it was the USBC CEO and the Texas African American Chambers of Commerce CEO, all the people on the USBC national board and everything. Right. Joe Biden literally walked away from the podium. He did the whole slow Joe thing, walking around looking, and then he tried to play it off, and he went to go shake the Texas African American Chamber of Commerce's hand, Dr. Charles O'Neill. And from that moment on, everybody was all laughing, kiki, and smiling like, "Oh, Joe." And I'm just sitting there looking at him the whole time like, did that really just happen? I mean, I know I've been smoking weed from time to time in Washington, D.C. because it is legal there. So I was like, did that really just happen, or am I tripping right now? And I remember looking at our vice president of the Black Chambers of Commerce, Curtis, like, did you not just see what just happened? And he was so caught up in the moment to where it's like, God bless him. I love you, Curtis, but come on, man. We got to do better than that. And then when Kamala decides to be like, oh, she's the next one up, and then it's like people were just trying to like be like, okay, we're all behind Kamala now. Just like, it's funny how y'all are quick to jump shift, but yet
without questioning why, what happened, without even questioning how Kamala Harris became the candidate. Was she voted in?
Oh, she wasn't.
Did you vote her in?
I didn't vote her in.
Do you know any Democrats that voted her in?
Shoot.
She was not voted in. And this is like something that was argued on Facebook. Someone argued and said, yes, she was voted in. And I asked, like, who voted her in? Because I know nobody did. She was installed. And they were like, the Democratic Party, the people, we voted her in. And I'm like,
the only reason why she's even a candidate for president, for the Democratic nomination, is because she's the vice president. Right. It's a chain of command thing. Right. It's kind of like, and like in sports, we always hear next man up. Mm-hmm. It works like that in politics too, y'all. I mean,
it's literally what the vice president is for, right?
The vice president is there to serve as the potential next president,
second in command. Yep.
Just in case the quote unquote president can't handle his duties. And Lord behold, look what happened with Joe Biden. He literally was so incompetent that where he literally had to drop out of the presidential race. So much for him keeping a pep in his step, right? But
did you see that video of him with the Trump hat?
Oh man.
That was earlier this week. So again, it's Friday the 13th, September 13th. Look up the video of Donald Trump. He takes the Trump hat, right? So there's a crowd of people in front of him. He grabs it and they're like, oh, put it on, put it on.
Yeah.
This man, y'all, I cannot make this up. And I don't know if this is a blow to Kamala after what she did to him.
Yeah.
He puts on the Donald Trump hat. And it's like, if that's not, I don't know what you would take that as.
And it's funny how you bring that up too, because one of the lines that Donald Trump said, and I think this was low key the most legendary line he probably said. He had a lot of legendary lines.
So many, yeah.
And again, I'm basically looking at this from a neutral standpoint, just to clear things up. Everything that me and Kim are talking about in regards to not only just the presidential debate, not only the election, we're looking at this from a Switzerland standpoint. We're looking at it from both sides. Yes, yes, Kamala made, I would say, a legit 3 to 4 interesting points that you could say, okay, that's decent enough. But if you really look at it in totality, it could have went either way, to be quite honest. I could see why some would say, oh, Kamala walked all over Trump. And I could see why some would say Trump stomped all over Kamala. I mean, it's kind of like your personal preference. But back to the legendary line, he said that Donald Trump literally said this to Kamala directly. Biden even hates you. If that
he wasn't wrong.
He's not lying about that, because people seem to forget when Joe Biden was running for president, Kamala Harris was one of the main people who was against Joe Biden running for president. And now Kamala Harris all of a sudden had to swallow her pride and be like,
we did it, Joe.
We did it. We did it and everything. And it's like
so fake, so scripted. And it's funny that you say that, because it was 3, in my opinion, from a neutral standpoint, it was 3-on-1. That debate was 3-on-1. There was nobody in Trump's corner.
A quote unquote 20v1, like, you know.
It was hard to watch from
I was cringed at
point
times.
because it's like, okay, fact check this man. Fact checked him. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But then Kamala said some things about abortion. She said some things about Haiti and they're the Haitian immigrants. She said a lot of things that I'm like, whoa, back up.
Yeah.
The buyback, the gun laws, right?
Yeah.
The fracking, all of the stuff that she got caught slipping, not a single fact checked. And we talked about this before we started recording. So what was it? 8 states in the United States?
7 to 8 states.
Yes, they have 0 restrictions right now in real time. That they have 0 restrictions on abortions, meaning that if I go in, let's say I'm 34 weeks pregnant, you know, I'm a single mom, my boyfriend leaves me, I go, maybe not here in Texas, because you know that's a whole thing, but like, let's say I go to New Mexico, for instance, and I'm 34 weeks pregnant and I want to abort this baby. It's a full-term baby. I gave birth at 38 weeks. So 34 weeks, that's a full grown baby. They can legally go in. There are 0 restrictions. They can go in and abort, which is kill that baby. The baby, even if I'm in labor, I can I can push and give birth to a live infant and still abort the child. So then what then would you call that? It's no longer my body. My body is sovereign from this child. But they're still saying, well, it's my body, my choice. It's no longer your body when the living, breathing being comes out of you. That's a separate child. It's a separate soul. It's a separate being.
Abortion is always going to be like a touchy, controversial subject, because it's like, you even alluded to this before we started recording, Kim. It's basically sacrificing a child. And you'd be surprised on all these secret societies that they don't talk about in America. What do you think they do? They literally do everything that's been talked about, dating all the way back to the Old Testament, as far as sacrificing goats, sacrificing, I don't know, any kind of random animal, kids. I mean,
children. Baal was the sacrificial. It was the deity that they would sacrifice child to, Baal and Moloch. Like you said, it goes back to biblical times. So it's not anything new. It's just got a different label on it in the name of
Planned Parenthood,
which if you look into the founders of that, as a Black American, I think every Black American should look into the founder of Planned Parenthood.
Oh, yeah.
She was a huge racist. She hated Black people. She created this to get rid of the Black race. She wanted them to abort their children so that they would stop reproducing. Please fact check me on this, because if you are a Black American, I don't care if you're liberal, Democrat, Republican, and you care about your race, you want to say Black Lives Matter. What about those unborn lives? There's so many Black babies that are being killed in the name of my body, my choice. And it's like, that could be a future doctor, that could be a future president, that could be, you'll
never know what they will be and what potential they could have, because you literally took away their life and basically just stripped away any control they could have possibly had as far as just living. I mean, for me with abortion, I try not to say too much about it because it's so touchy and so controversial. But at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, I feel like abortion, you should not kill. That goes against the creation of God. Number one,
it does.
That's all it boils down to. You're basically just saying, oh God, I'm not gonna have this creation be a part of the world, and
I got my life to live, right?
Yeah, that's basically, when you think about it, that's all really that abortion is, when you strip away all the rights and the policies and all that stuff. All the emotions, feelings, the ego, all that stuff. Abortion is literally child sacrifice, which basically feeds into all these secret societies and all these demonic rituals that they like to do, and it goes against the creation of God.
Whether or not you're a part of these secret societies.
Exactly.
Or whether or not you believe in God. That's what you're doing, is you are you're killing a child and sacrificing it.
It's borderline murder.
So that it is murder. In all honesty, it is murder. So it's like, if I go and get a brand new baby, if I go to the hospital right now and a woman just gave birth and I go and I stab that baby, or I rip the leg off and tear them limb from limb, which is it's what an abortion is. For those that don't know, they rip the fetus inside of you limb from limb. They scramble it and they kill it. So if I were to go to the hospital right now and do that, I would be arrested for murder. Like, hands down, I'd be in prison, and rightfully so. And so I say, like, we say this with compassion in our hearts, because we're not shaming. I love people that have had an abortion. Yeah. I know people that have had one, and I still love them. I'm not going to stop loving them. That's what we're called to do as Christ followers, is to love one another. Yeah. And the sad thing is, the people that I know that have had one were very young. They felt like they had no choices. They were told by the Planned Parenthood adults that they didn't even go to their parents because they were so scared. Yeah. And these adults were convincing them, no, you're so young. You can go to college. You have your whole life ahead of you. You can do this and that and this. And, you're a single parent. Well, I'm here to say that is, for one, that's so misleading, because, I was a single mother too. Whenever I gave birth to my daughter, I went on to, I have my own business now. I support myself. I support my daughter. She's in sports. She's homeschooled. I'm a multiple time champion in my favorite sport. Yep. So for people that try to, say, I just want to, that I don't have the means for it, or I don't have the opportunity. Yeah. The government makes means for you. There are programs for you, and I utilize those programs too. There's WIC, there's food stamps, there's financial assistance. There's all kinds of government programs that will assist you. And if you decide that you're maybe too young, which one could argue maybe you should be practicing safe sex if that's the case. A lot of people say, what's my body, my choice? Well, why don't you choose to practice safe sex? Like, there's birth
or choose to be celibate.
I am a huge advocate for this. Like, not many people know, but I have chosen celibacy before. I know people think it's a little controversial because I already have a daughter, but after I got baptized, my fiance and I, we have chosen that route to be celibate until we get married. And being in our 30s, that's so weird to people, but it is doable. So it really is. You could either be celibate in your teens and early 20s, or if you want to go and live your life and have your fun, like most people do, we're nobody to judge and we're nobody to tell you how to live your life, but be safe. Because it's not just about having an unwanted child. There's so many STDs out there. Oh yeah. Like, just practice safe sex and you won't, this whole conversation
HIV and AIDS is a real thing.
It is. And let's not get started on the monkeypox. There's so much. It. There's so, and so
monkeypox, bird flu, all those things that they're trying to bring back to try to distract us from everything that's going on, especially with what just
election year.
With election year, it's like I told you this before, Kim. It's like that episode of The Simpsons. I forget which episode it is, where you got all these big multimedia corporation executive CEOs sitting in one room. We need to come up with a way to distract people. So they come up with just. It's funny how they're bringing back monkeypox, or actually monkeypox, bird flu. They're trying to ramp up COVID again to try to get everybody distracted and stuff. It's so dumb because we know what's going on as far as like based on what's going on with the debate and everything, and that just happened. I mean, they were over here trying to debate about the economy and all this stuff. Like when you look at each side, Kamala is basically trying to say, "Hey, I'm in favor of small businesses because I've used to."
When I haven't seen that in the last 4 years. Have you?
I mean, that's very up for debate right there within itself. But
as two small business owners, we haven't received anything from her.
No,
any type of assistance or help, anything.
At least when Trump was in office, we had like stimulus checks coming and stuff, and at least he was trying to protect the American economy from unfair foreign competition. I mean, look at where we get all of our technology from. China, Japan. I mean, if you look in the small little letters on every piece of technology you have, it says either made in China, made in Japan, or made in Taiwan. So
yeah.
Who's the real threat to the democracy and the Constitution? I mean,
100%.
We have a feeling we know who the real threat is, but for those who are listening to this particular episode, figure it out for yourself and put 2 and 2 together. That way it can equal 4. Because like with the whole debate, the one thing that kind of pissed me off the most about the debate was when they were talking about the Russia and Ukraine war, and they tried to jump on Kamala. Well, actually, they tried to ask Kamala, have you ever met with Putin to try to end the whole war and everything? She kept deflecting that to talk about, I've met with the Ukrainian president 5 times. Where? How? When?
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, when it comes to that gives us more of a reason why we should research. We should research, number one. And number two, I hate to say this, and I never thought I would be saying this, and this is probably going to be the most controversial thing I'm probably going to say in this episode. We need Donald Trump back in office. As much as I hate to say this, I mean, and I was one of those people who despised everything about him when he first became the president back in 2016. I literally had a nightmare of this man's I literally had a nightmare of this man's face literally going like it was like zoomed in closely and it was like zoomed out, and I just remember seeing him with a little mean mug face, with him and Melania standing side by side. This was the day before the 2016 election and before he got announced as president. I will never forget it because I remember waking up that morning and then seeing, Trump is the president, and I'm thinking,
did he tell you you're fired?
No, he didn't tell me that I was fired. He was super silent the whole time. Man. It's like I was literally looking at his face, and his face was right here, and it was zooming out like this. And that was when I woke up, and then they both just disappeared, and it was just white background. And then that let me know. And then sure enough, first thing I see on my phone on my updates, Trump just won the presidential election. And that literally made me go damn near borderline crazy. But
yeah, that I remember that day too. I think we were talking about this last time.
Yeah,
I was actually. No, that was November 6th, 2016. And I'll never forget it because I went in labor November 7th and my daughter was born. So she was born a day after Donald Trump became president. And I remember writing in her baby book, it asks you what's the cost of a gallon of milk? What's the cost of a carton of eggs, a movie ticket? Who's the president? And so I wrote all that down and I went back and I was like, you're kidding me. We used to pay $1.75 for gas. Like $1.75. And I remember thinking, oh Lord, like we have a celebrity for a president. Like I don't want a celebrity for a president, Lord. Just like I'm not even going to stress about it. And then maybe I did. Maybe that's why I went into labor. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't know. But looking back at it now, after now that Biden and Kamala have literally been running the country for now the last 3.5 years, so to speak, it's kind of the same feeling I had whenever Obama left, the office back in 2016. Like, we miss Barack Obama. I never thought I'd be saying this. We miss Donald Trump, and we need Donald Trump back because it's some of the stuff that he was saying is not as crazy as people think that it may be. Like it's
controversial, but it's not crazy.
It's controversial, but it's like people seem to forget. Like, yes, Trump says some crazy controversial stuff, but he's far from stupid.
Oh yeah,
he's far from stupid. I mean, I remember the night of the debate, everybody was over here making memes and talking about how he was like, are they really eating cats and dogs, for example? I've had conversations with people who've seen actual videos of them actually doing that.
I've seen body cams from police officers. I've heard the 911 dispatch of the non-emergency from residents that their pets have gone missing. And then I've also seen images of a Haitian man with a duck in his hand. He's carrying it by the feet, walking.
Yeah.
And they posted that. And that went viral because they're literally going to the public parks. Like, imagine you and Emily go into a park and then you just see someone grabbing a duck out of there and just, start skinning it and eating it.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. This is real. This stuff is really happening.
I mean, I don't know if y'all are aware of this. We are in the year 2024. It's the year of the truth. Nothing is off limits. And look at how crazy this year has been within itself. I mean, I feel like 2024 alone is going to be like the last normal year that we have, as crazy as it's been thus far. Because if you think the stuff that's happened in 2024 has been crazy, you haven't seen nothing yet, my friends, because it's only going to get worse. Because
I hope not. I really hope it doesn't get worse, but I wouldn't put it past it.
It's nothing. It's nothing is off limits. It's like we are in the end times, and honestly, we need Donald Trump to be back in the presidency. That way he could tear apart this broken system that's already been shattered into pieces. Yes. It's literally on the point of breaking, and all Biden and Kamala are doing are just trying to keep it from shattering from what Trump did from 2016 to 2020. So now we just need Donald Trump to bring like the sledgehammer, bulldozers, any type of construction equipment you could think of to just tear the system down. That way we can build up a new system.
See, I don't think that I am totally against that one world government thing, that whole agenda to,
the new world order.
Right. And so what I urge our viewers and our listeners to do is look up Project 2025 and look up Agenda 47 because Kamala Harris kept bringing up Project 2025. Donald Trump stated multiple times that he hasn't even read it, that it's on his desk. He doesn't even look at it. That is not from him, according to him. And so I actually had to fact check this, and I went onto the Donald Trump's website. You can read the PDF for Agenda 47.
Oh, yeah.
You can read it right from his website. It's not very long. It's like, 16 pages?
Yeah,
it's
16,
not very long.
17 pages.
And it tells you everything that he is endorsing. So do not let and going back to the debate, this is the thing. It was very one-sided.
It was.
And so as somebody who is neutral, I've always disliked bullies, right? Yeah. I've never liked a bully. Who does? So, say what you will about Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him his first, I didn't vote for him the first term.
Neither did I.
I didn't vote for him. I didn't want him to be president, but after 4 years of living through his presidency and thriving and paying my bills as a single mother on my own, living off of one income, traveling out of state every single year and taking my daughter with me and still living comfortably, I looked back and was like, you know what? We're not on fire the way everybody thought we would be. No. And so fast forward to this debate. Now I'm like you said, I never thought I would say we need Donald Trump back in office because what Biden and Kamala did that first, what was it? The 100 executive orders that he repealed of Donald Trump.
He basically
first 100 days.
He took apart basically every document that Donald Trump put into office. He basically was just trying to wipe it out just like it never happened.
Like a toddler who just, no, I don't like you. No, I want nothing to do with you. And then just like, what did Kamala say? With the swipe of my pen.
With the swipe of my pen.
She has that power and he had that power and that's what he did. So what we need.
Who really is the corrupt one? Because they say power corrupts. Who's the corrupt one?
A lot of Democrats will argue well, he's a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. And it's like, I don't remember living in a dictatorship ever.
Mm-mm.
Do you?
I didn't feel like I was in a dictatorship, honestly.
Not at all. But I will say this. Get on whatever browser that you have. I personally use Brave. If you use Google, use Google. Go and look up Agenda 47 and go and look up Project 2025. They're trying to scare you with Project 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Has nothing to do with Donald Trump. If he becomes president, that's not what he says he's going to go by. And as somebody who doesn't need to tell us how he would be a president because we already lived through it, and so we should know that what he said he was going to do, he did. Yeah. And then Biden and Kamala undid it.
It's basically, we talked about this before, Kim. It's the lesser of two evils. I'd rather go with someone who I already know versus someone who I don't know.
The businessman who ran the country as if it were his own personal business and as if it was in his best interest to have that economy booming. So then his pockets in turn would be booming, but so would ours. And so he's the first president that did not accept his presidential salary. Maybe not the first, but he definitely didn't accept that presidential salary. He actually lost money becoming president.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas Joe Biden, which I think that's why he stepped down, you're not really hearing anything much about him because he got caught receiving, what was it, $27 million from China?
From China, from
and
Ukraine,
Russia, Ukraine. Yeah. So
who really is the threat to the democracy? Again,
who really is trying to line their own pockets?
I mean, basically, Trump was a billionaire before he became president. He lost all his endorsements and everything. He lost a lot of money, and that's because Donald Trump is always about the money.
And he used his own money for his campaign.
He funded his own campaign, all of those things. So it's like
you have to look at all of these things, right? Whenever you're kind of looking into, right, like you said, who is the real threat? Who is the one? They're all liars, in my opinion. Every single politician is going to lie in some way to get their position.
We don't even know what race Kamala Harris officially is.
I don't think she knows. Well, maybe she knows. She just doesn't want to tell us.
We don't even know if Kamala Harris is black, whether she's Native American, Jamaican, South Asian. Donald Trump even said within the debate, I don't know what she is. I don't care what she is. Whatever she wants to be, that's fine.
She's free to do that.
Again, one of the more legendary lines in the debate within itself.
He had so many lines. And it's like, did you see that picture of Tim Walz's family? If you haven't already, which I know most of you have because it was viral.
Yeah.
Tim Walz's family posted a picture of all of them wearing Donald Trump t-shirts, endorsing Donald Trump. This is Kamala Harris's vice president candidate. His family doesn't even support him. Why would we? From the outside looking in, why would we endorse somebody whose own family flesh and blood, doesn't even stand by them? That sent a huge statement. And then
that's a red flag within itself.
It is. And then Biden wearing the Trump hat, like
it's stuff that people don't want to talk about. And it's like Trump said it himself. Biden doesn't even like you. No one doesn't even like you.
Nobody did like her. Remember in 2020?
Oh, the Obamas didn't even like her.
Oh, but all of a sudden the media plants that little seed into the American population. CNN, that's what you call propaganda.
MSNBC, all the major medias.
Convincing everyone.
It's basically, I'm using this quote from the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. It's a 20v1 versus quote unquote. Some people are saying it's 20v1 versus Trump, but really it's 20v1 versus Kamala. Because
the media is just
the media is trying to flip it to where it's like it's 20v1 versus Trump, but no.
Because remember, she had a 1% approval rating in 2020. Nobody wanted her. Not even the Dems wanted her. We wanted Tulsi Gabbard. Because I will admit, I used to vote Democrat. That is how bad it has gotten. Yeah. I used to vote Democrat. I like Tulsi Gabbard. Even she has abandoned that party. RFK Jr., like when you have all these former Democrats
siding with Trump,
realizing that it's not even about the lesser of two evils. Like if I'm being completely honest, I was Trump an a-hole? Most definitely.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not going to go so far as to say he was evil because from what I saw, I come from a family of military. I come from a lot of people in my family on both sides are veterans. So whenever I see my grandfather, who's a Vietnam War veteran,
Mm-hmm.
complaining to me that the Veterans Office, right? Because he used to have to drive to San Antonio to get his glaucoma treated.
Yeah.
He used to have to drive very far just to get a good doctor's appointment. Under Donald Trump, he not only funded those programs to where they could open up more facilities, he stopped having to go out of city to get seen and treated. My grandfather told me, who used to hate Trump as well.
Yeah.
He told me, I don't think he's so bad after all, because I have been getting so much more help and so much more funding. Like, I don't have to pay any more out of pocket the way I used to, and I don't have to drive so far to see a doctor and actually be seen within a month or two. Like, it was, there's the homelessness crisis. There's just so much that Trump was putting the American people first, which I do believe, when we talked about this last episode, put your mask on first before you put anybody else's mask on a plane. We got to save ourselves before we save anybody else. That is what we need to do with the American people before we can save Israel, before we can save Ukraine, before we can, who even said that we need to save them anyways?
Maybe they need to save themselves. Maybe us as Americans, we need to worry about protecting our own country before we worry about someone else's country, because it's kind of like, that's kind of like almost similar to like, oh, I'm worrying about my next door neighbor and how they live, when you need to worry about how you live. If you want to change the world, you got to start with changing your own backyard first.
Right.
You got to look at yourself in the mirror. And as a matter of fact, I said this in my motivational video that I usually do 5 a.m. whenever I go to the gym and stuff. I said this actually on the morning of 9/11. You need to stand for something before you believe in anything.
No, yeah.
You have to do that, because the media is literally going to try to manipulate you into thinking this one-sided bullshit narrative, and they're only going to give you half of the truth.
They're going to give you a headline. Best. Yeah, they'll give you a headline.
Most of the time, they just sprinkle breadcrumbs and they try to piece it together into a headline, and they give you half of the truth at best.
Right.
The other half, you got to do your research and look into those things yourself to where you can realize, okay, maybe the media isn't telling the whole truth and not the entire truth as they should be. But then again, I mentioned this before, Kim, if it bleeds, it leads. And if you notice, the media hasn't even been talking about as much with the whole Venezuelan gangs taking over Colorado. They haven't been talking about how the Haitians have been, quote unquote, taking over Springfield, Ohio. I'm like, damn, is this like an episode of The Simpsons or what's going on here? But it's like,
the fact checker said that wasn't true, Cliff.
I saw videos of a whole bunch of people walking up in an apartment complex, ARs, AKs, and everything. Like, hey, we're just gonna come in here and we're just gonna invade your home like it's no big deal. And I'm looking at the video. I remember having a conversation with Emily about this before we went to go for a walk, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, so that's what we're doing right now? But notice how it hasn't happened in Texas, at least not yet.
Oh, yeah.
If it happened in Texas, I guarantee you it will be the biggest national headline ever.
That would be the civil war that they're programming us to be prepared for, I believe. I do believe that they try to program us with movies and things like that.
Predictive foreshadowing.
Yes.
Leave the World Behind, the Civil War movie that they just released a few months ago. They're telling you this all for a reason, because it's literally about to happen.
There was that movie on Netflix about the train derailing and the chemical spills, which, by the way, did we all just forget about the world literally being on fire when Biden, in, what was it, 2021?
Yes.
It was Brazil. It was not just America. It was Canada. There was it was Greece. There were so many different places all over the globe that were on fire in real time. There was a map that you could look at, and in real time, the whole world was simultaneously on fire.
Yeah,
the trains derailed, the oil spills, which is going to affect agriculture, and that's what people were saying would lead to eventually the what is it called? The 15-minute cities?
Yeah, the 15-minute cities or something.
Because if that land is destroyed, same thing with Lahaina. That land is destroyed, then the government goes in and they purchase it because it's unlivable, and it's like chemically, tainted or whatever. And so they buy it, they do whatever it is they do with it, and then they create, and I think Austin, Texas, you can look this up. Austin, Texas was one of the major cities that signed up for one of those 15-minute cities. And that is not something that you don't want to live in a city where you can walk everywhere and you don't have a car, you don't have a means to just like travel on your own. Everything's, cashless. It's like digital. That's literally giving that you're just losing all of your control and stripping away your rights willingly. So
yeah. It's funny
crazy.
how much billions of dollars we spend on all these illegal aliens, but yet they don't want to spend that same amount of money just to get rid of those very same illegal aliens, because there's people who are hardworking citizens who literally don't get shit. But whenever these illegal aliens come, it's like the government secretly, they're like, here, we'll give you everything you want. Welcome to America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. And by the way, what I just said is complete bullshit, because it's the land of the free once you pay a fee. Mm-hmm. Just don't forget that now. It's the land of the free once you pay a fee, unless you're an illegal alien.
And then don't forget, you have to get it registered. You have to pay taxes on it every year. So it's not really yours. Even your property, your car.
We don't own anything.
No.
We don't own our house. We don't own our cars. We literally do not own anything. If they wanted to, they could take away our houses, our cars. They could leave us literally on the streets and literally out in the wilderness, leaving us to die and suffer if they really, really wanted to. They have the capability of doing that because of, as you alluded to, Kim, taxes. Yeah. If there's one thing you can't escape other than death, it's taxes. You're gonna get taxed until the day you die. And even when you do die, they're gonna tax you at the funeral. So let that sink in for everybody who's listening to this particular episode, because it's just mind-blowing within itself, everything that's just going on within this country, within the whole debate. Just like literally kind of, I hope it opened everybody else's eyes to what's really going on. Everybody's over here too busy trying to pick sides and everything. We need to look at everything in its totality. Yep. We need to do our research. And again, me and Kim are not trying to influence. We're trying to influence you basically to do your own research, right? To use fact check. Use your brain. You have a brain. Last time I checked, utilize it. Don't believe everything the media says.
This thing right here, we have the internet at our fingertips. Sorry, that's my game. We have the internet at our fingertips. We no longer have to go to libraries to get encyclopedias or textbooks or anything like that to
type
do research.
It in. Google is your friend, bruh.
Google may not be our friends, but that's a whole other story. But
it's a starting point for some who don't know how to do research.
They might so Google
might ban Google too, because they just caught a bunch of lawsuits too, what they're not talking about.
And that's not new. Thing. Yeah, that's not new. That's going back to 2020 during what Mark Zuckerberg actually just admitted recently, that the Democratic Party paid him, the Biden administration paid him and pressured him to censor
secret handshakes and money,
to censor everything back in COVID that questioned the vaccine, the efficacy, all of it. And so I was one of the people. Honestly, if you follow me on Instagram, I've posted this before and I'll post it again. I'm considering making another Instagram account, because in 2020, all of the stuff that I was posting about COVID, just the virus itself and the vaccine, everything that I posted was called conspiracy, and they censored me. I'm still censored to this day. I cannot boost any posts. I'm very limited in my algorithm. Everything, I'm heavily censored because of the stuff that I said that has been proven in court to be factual. They never undid it.
And look at what's happening to Anthony Fauci, the guy who basically was trying to push the COVID vaccine in our faces. He's suffering some major karma, because now he's over here getting sick from West Nile virus.
There are consequences to everything.
There really is. So it's like,
oh, well, sorry. Going back to what I was saying about that in 2020, it was Mark Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. It was who, I forget the name of Apple, the owner of Apple.
Steve Jobs.
The one that after him.
Ted something.
And then it was Facebook.
Tim Cook's.
It was Facebook, Google, Apple. They all, and
correct me if I'm wrong.
This was very quietly done. They went to court because of what they were doing.
Let me guess, they reached a settlement agreement or something?
It was very quiet. There was zero news coverage on it. If you go to Google, and this is what they went to court for, was because Google, if it had any keywords that had to do with coronavirus, it had to do with COVID-19, had to do with the vaccine, had to do with anything that made people question it or deter them from getting the vaccine, they were blacklisting it. They were making it to where what you and I would be searching for, like, hey, you know, has this happened? Did this happen? Is it true?
Mm-hmm.
They would put it down to like the 50 or 100th page to where you would have to be researching for hours to find what you're looking for. Yeah. And then the very first ones that they would put up are the mainstream media narratives. So they may not have even been true. And then another thing that Mark Zuckerberg got in trouble for was his fact checkers. His fact checkers were actually in the court of law proven to not be anything more than college hires.
And ironically enough, that's when he started Facebook, which was when he was in college. With a group of friends. And the irony of that, his fact checkers were from college.
They were just college recruits. They had no special background in research. They were literally biased, and they were given a bias to fact check on. So it was very unethical, and it was very illegal, and that's why he got in trouble for it. So it's crazy because we're starting to see that again. It's election year. We're starting to see some fact checks. I posted something on my Instagram the other day after the debate, fact checking Kamala Harris. Like, well, not fact checking, but I posted about the Haitian immigrants, and I got fact checked on my story, and it said that was partly false. And I'm like, partly false means partly true. You can't put that. They're just instilling that little bit of doubt in my credibility because they don't want people to see that she is in fact wrong, and ABC didn't call her on it. You know, it was very one-sided. It was very, let's fact check Trump. But everything that she talked about, the gun buybacks, about the fracking, about the abortions, we're just going to let that slide, even though it's true. She lied.
Yeah, she really did lie. And honestly, it doesn't surprise me that everybody especially the media, is trying to attack Donald Trump for all the times that
it's been years that they've been doing that.
They've been doing that ever since he's been literally calling them out on their bullshit, saying it's fake news and all this stuff. But is it really fake news? Is Donald Trump really a threat? Is Kamala Harris really more than just a pawn? I mean,
put it this way.
I'm throwing this out there for the listeners to really think about this. Be careful for all those who are really siding with Kamala, be careful what you wish for. And God bless you at the end of the day. And for those who are siding with Trump, again, God bless you, because at the end of the day, I mean, all I'm gonna say is this. I mean, at least Trump actually cares more so about the country, more so than Kamala. That's what I see within my own two eyes. That's what I got out of the debate when I strip away all the controversial statements that he says and everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm leaving it to you. Comment below. You know, let's have a discussion about this, because we need to have more discussions about this, and instead of letting the media manipulate us more so than anything, Kim, because it's like I said earlier, we need to stand for something before we believe anything, and most importantly, fall for nothing.
Yeah. So put it this way. If you want to look and see who's the real threat to our democracy in America, which we are a, constitutional republic, right? We have the U.S. Constitution. So if you want to see who is the biggest threat, why don't anybody who is old enough to vote, why don't you go and look back and see how many wars were we in between 2016 and 2020? What was accomplished for Blacks, for veterans, and people of all color, and just the general unemployment rate
for the military,
right? Versus 2020 forward. And people want to complain, well, COVID, Biden inherited COVID, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but what did he do to contribute to the spiral of our country? And so also, how many wars did we get put back in or fund?
Oh, let's not forget climate change, Kim.
Yeah, the Paris Accord. Goodness. There's just so much that we could dive into. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the facts. And the facts are that Donald Trump pulled us out. He ended wars. He brought back soldiers home to their families. And
really
what did Joe Biden do the moment that he became president?
He basically reignited a whole nother war with the whole war with Russia and Ukraine that we're still in, and we don't know the reason why.
We're just funding it, but you and I are paying for it.
We're the taxpayers are paying for that war. Billions of dollars are being sent to Ukraine for what?
And you know what? Let's do one better and show some respect to the 13 United States soldiers that were killed under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that were not even acknowledged in that debate.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too. I'm glad you mentioned that. I almost forgot about it. I mean, the whole war and everything, it's like it's been the worst. She said something about it being the worst since before the Civil War and everything.
She made a comment about January 6th.
Oh yeah, the January 6th, the
most deadly terrorist attack on the U.S. in the U.S. since the Civil War.
No, it wasn't.
Did she forget about 9/11?
We literally just celebrated 9/11,
She said that the day before 9/11. Literally, like, you cannot make this stuff up. She said it on September the 10th. She said that January 6th with Donald Trump was the worst terrorist attack in the U.S. since the Civil War. And
that's complete bullshit, because we all remember 9/11. We have to be reminded about it every single year since it happened. I almost lost my Aunt Olivia because of 9/11. She was working in the Trade Center and the Twin Towers when it was on fire. She barely made it out alive. And you want to tell me that's not the worst attack since?
Oh, but January 6th, Cliff. January 6th, there was an unarmed woman killed. It was horrible.
January the 6th, if you really look at January the 6th, I mean, yes, Trump said, to go march down and make a statement. The worst thing that really happened in January the 6th, when you really strip away down the totality of it, a bunch of people were just walking around the Capitol building. Who were basically let in.
There's videos of it.
They were let in, and yes,
police officers stood there and watched them walk in.
And they were protesting the flags, walking into all the
peaceful protest.
That's all it really was.
And an unarmed American woman got shot and killed.
Yeah, that's all it really was. Versus 9/11, which 9/11 was the biggest setup in the history by the U.S. government. We all know it.
Most people should know that by now.
If you don't think that 9/11 was a setup by now, you probably
inside job. Look into the trillions of dollars that went missing. What, days before 9/11?
$2.3 trillion went missing from the Pentagon before 9/11. They did predictive foreshadowing with all these movies and references, and as far as all the TV shows and cartoons to 9/11. Again, letting people know what's about to happen, and look what happened. The biggest Building 7. It was the biggest inside job that we've ever witnessed.
Yes.
And we have to be reminded about that every single time it comes up since 2001, which is annoying within itself. And every time it's like, I think of myself, I thought about this 2 days ago when it happened. This is the biggest setup that we've ever witnessed of all time, the biggest terrorist attack that we've ever witnessed. And that's the reason why we went to war in Afghanistan to begin with, was because of 9/11.
Yeah.
And it took us, almost 20 years to barely get ourselves out of it.
And then whenever we did, it was arguably the most botched thing. I mean, it was just... It's, with all due respect to the woman who did lose her life on January 6th, because she didn't deserve that.
No one deserves that.
Whatever was happening, I may not agree with certain things that did happen that day. Maybe they shouldn't have stormed it, but she was unarmed, and everything that happened leading up to it, there was an FBI. Nancy Pelosi did receive a call that they were coming, and instead of sending, people to block the entrance, they allowed them to enter.
Yeah.
So it was almost like they had permission to go in. And, with all due respect to her, it just doesn't compare to 9/11. It just in no way, shape, or form does it compare.
January 6th January 6th, 2021 is not even in discussion as far as the worst terrorist attack. If anything, it was the least most threatening terrorist attack. I mean, you could go back. I mean, 9/11 again was the worst terrorist attack of all time. It literally shifted the whole world and had it at a standstill.
Yes, it did.
January the 6th, it shocked some people, yes.
It shocked some people.
But it didn't literally alter the course.
It outraged a lot of people, but it definitely didn't claim, like you're saying, it didn't alter everybody's lives. It didn't, demand that universal moment of silence for the American people. And if you saw the video of the Palestinians cheering in the streets, this is hard for me to talk about because we have Americans right now protesting in New York City, protesting pro-Palestine, it blows my mind. You have these Americans fighting for Palestinian rights when the Palestinians were cheering when our people were killed on September 11th. American people lost their lives. It was traumatic for so many people, so many firefighters and the rescue teams that, lost their lives after that from the smoke inhalation and their rescue efforts. It's like they were cheering the death of Americans. And this is who they're trying to fight for, and it's just
it's basically ass backwards if you really think about it. And that's why
blows my mind.
That's why the whole purpose of the Organic Combat podcast is to give you this raw, uncut, truth telling, whether it may ruffle some feathers or not. We're just trying to challenge you to basically use your brain, do your research, fact check before you believe anything that the media throws in front of your face, because honestly, there's so much that we can, of course, build off of what we've been talking about alone. It might even become a series, maybe. It's because we are in the heat of election season, and trust me, there's going to be more and more stuff coming out and everything.
Might have to,
because this is gonna get crazy. I'm telling you this right now. This is why we need to unplug ourselves from the technology at times, unplug ourselves from the media. We need to get back and getting in tune with ourselves. We need to get back in tune with nature. We
nourishing our minds and our bodies.
Nourish our minds, body, and spirit. That's basically the reason why Kim and I came together to do the Organic Combat podcast, where we can help people do that exactly.
So how are we going to be able to think freely for ourselves if we're consuming all the fluoride in the tap water, if we're consuming all the fast food full of chemicals and endocrine disruptors in our laundry detergents, in our dish soaps, in our perfumes, in our lotions, if we're not aware of what we're putting on and in our body, that is literally what they're banking on. So that you just like an antenna, and then they're programming you, and then they're feeding you 24/7 CNN, they're feeding you, all of these radio stations and ABC News that is so biased and one-sided. They're feeding you this propaganda, and that's what it is. So I'm going to call it what it is. It's propaganda. They're feeding you this, and the average American bathes in fluoride every day, and some people even drink the water. This has been scientifically proven to not only lower your IQ, but it also it calcifies your pineal gland, and it if you look into the science behind that, it inhibits your ability to think freely. So you're literally consuming this sludge, mentally, spiritually, and physically. You're consuming this sludge today in America that just keeps you from seeing real life for what it is.
That's why this is why I'm challenging everyone on this. Kim is definitely going to attest to what I'm about to say. This is why we need to bring back the art of fasting into our life, because there's a reason why it helps us get more mental clarity. There's a reason why it gives us a sense of spiritual enlightenment. I mean, if you look at all the religions and stuff, there's a reason why the Nation of Islam celebrates Ramadan so much. There's a reason why in Judaism, Yom Kippur is such a big thing. And there's a reason why even for Christianity, Lent. I mean, look at there's been specific fasting rituals that's been going on for centuries. It goes back to even the Old Testament. Jonah did it. Moses did it.
All of them.
Jesus Christ did it for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness.
Yes.
And myself
he did it to cast out demons. He even said these can only be cast out through prayer and what?
Fasting. And honestly, I've taken on the challenge of incorporating 36-hour water fasts weekly because I just got tired of all the toxins. I got tired of all the chemicals. I got tired of it all. And at the same time, I always want to find ways on how I could continue to evolve from a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual standpoint. And I talked about this on the solo episode I did of the HFWB podcast series the other day. There's so many benefits to fasting to where it can literally change you from a physical, mental, and emotional standpoint. I'm just going to throw some things out here rather quickly. I mean, it helps out with weight loss. It helps out with, insulin sensitivity. I mean, the metabolic rate. I mean, it helps out cleaning out damaged cells and regenerating new ones. And most importantly, it adds years to your life versus take away years from your life. And most importantly, it helps enhance cognitive function. I kid you not, Kim, ever since I started incorporating 36-hour weekly water fasts, it's been such a huge game changer to where it's like my thoughts are clicking. I'm able to see things more clearly.
Mental clarity.
Exactly. Sure. Mental clarity, all these things. It's like,
I agree.
And again, the anti-inflammatory effects, the cardiovascular benefits. I mean, I'm gonna break down fasting within itself on the HFWB podcast series.
That's a good one.
I'm literally gonna break it down into a series and everything. But
there's even some science behind this too with cancer. So whenever you're fasting,
helps out with cancer. Yeah.
Yes, it actually allows cancer cells to die.
Yeah,
because you're starving them, right? And so these cancer cells that would become cancerous die off. And so you're renewing and regenerating, and your body is, even your gut, everything. I can't wait till you do that episode because I'm ready for that.
I already recorded it, and I'm about.
Oh, you did!
I already recorded it, and I'm about to release it here.
Nice. Okay.
Very, very soon.
Look out for that.
Yes, for sure. But I figured, as you know, for everyone who listens to the Organic Combat podcast, we always like to end every episode with a little bit of scripture, just to give you a little bit of guidance, especially from the Holy Bible, because I'll be honest, a lot of y'all are just as stubborn as the Pharaoh in Egypt that Moses and Aaron was dealing with. And that's a whole nother thing. If you don't believe what I just said is factual, go look at Exodus and you'll see.
Your Bible.
Go look at Exodus, and I'll tell you, a lot of y'all people out there who are listening to this who are probably doubting and questioning everything me and Kim are saying, y'all are just as stubborn as the Pharaoh in Egypt from the Exodus, book of Exodus. That's a whole nother thing within itself.
But it's not too late. It's never too late. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Better late than never, though.
Yes. There was a man.
But never late is better, though.
There was the man on the cross right next to Jesus that was a murderer, and he repented at the very last minute on his death cross, and he was saved. So it's never too late to turn around.
And speaking of Jesus, I figured this would be that's a great segue into actually my scripture that I was going to read from Matthew chapter 6, verse 16 through 18. When it referring to the whole fasting, to kind of bring this full circle, Jesus instructs people to fast in secret, which is kind of what I've been doing. A lot of people don't know that I've been fasting, but hey, the secret's out now. It's time for you to incorporate it into your life. But back to the scripture. In this passage, Jesus instructs people to fast in secret so that only God can see their fasting. He says that God will reward those who fast, pray, and give in secret. As in other words, don't brag about it and boast about it on social media.
All credit to God.
Keep it secret. That's why I say you need to unplug yourself from social media. That's why you need to turn the TV off and not have your TV on for a whole entire day. That's why you need to unplug yourself even from technology. Read the Bible. Go back to the Bible before they try to wipe it out of existence, because it's getting to the point they're already banning God, like in the media, schools, and the jobs and all that. It's before you know it, they're literally going to have the Holy Bible, whether it's whatever version it may be, they're going to have that in the list of banned books possibly in the next 5 years if we don't get our act together and we don't go back to the source. I hate to say it, Kim, but in my gut feeling with the way these times that we're in and with all this demonic, satanic rituals taking place, it wouldn't surprise me if they start burning the Holy Bible in these satanic rituals. And that's how you know we are in trouble if that starts.
I think they do that right now in other countries already. Yeah.
So it's getting close where it's going to start happening in America, as Kim was alluding to. So. Yeah.
Praise the Lord that you and I can sit together and discuss these things, without persecution. Praise God that we can worship him and speak about him and share this message with you guys without persecution, because there are people in the world right now that cannot do this. There's women in the world that cannot do this. And you don't hear anything about the Democrats, trying to go save the Afghanistan and Iraqi women, but that's another episode. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it with my Bible verse, which is just so perfect because I love how in sync we are with this. And this is why we pray before we record this, because he just brings it in full circle and ties it perfect. Right. So my verse is from Joel, it's chapter 2, verse 12. Now, therefore, says the Lord, turn to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. And so with that, he's not saying, come to me and be miserable. He's saying, come to me in your misery, come to me in your weeping, come to me with all of your burdens and anxieties and troubles, come to me, fast, come to me, give them all to me, and stay in your word, guys. I don't care if you're reading just, one paragraph a day from your Bible. Prayer and fasting go hand in hand, and fasting can be very dangerous if you're not reading your Bible and praying, because the same way that we can invoke the Holy Spirit, we can also invoke other spirits. And I will tell you this, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this with your fasting as well. Mm-hmm. When you're fasting, you are literally killing and denying your flesh. Oh, yeah. You are denying your flesh because it's not easy. I just did a 36-hour fast too. I was telling you this past week. I literally just ended my 36-hour water fast not even 3 hours ago. I love it, because mine was 2 days ago and we didn't even coordinate this. We just did it. And so like you said, we don't go and brag about it. We don't go posting about it on social media, but we will share this with you right now because we want to inspire others to open their Bibles, to look into this, to look into the scientific benefits behind fasting and see how they go hand in hand, because our God is a mighty God who is the author of science.
And one last thing to throw in there before we close it out. You need to incorporate grounding, aka earthing, into your fasting as well. Matter of fact, I encourage everybody to do these things. I encourage everybody to go for a walk a little bit more and listen to the Holy Bible app, because that's a game changer within itself. I literally started doing that this week as far as ways to challenge myself from a spiritual standpoint to continue to evolve within my own spiritual enlightenment. And at the same time, go outside in your front yard, backyard. If you don't feel like going to a park or a beach or anything, you need to ground yourself within grass, sand, and soil. That way you can feel that electrical charge that Mother Earth is giving you from the ground and surface, to the bottom of your feet, towards literally like charging yourself up all in the same time. And as me and Kim have been talking about, as far as to close things out, fast in secret. Fast for your own well-being, not only for the physical components, but for the mental clarity and for the spiritual enlightenment, because all the great prophets did this at some point in their life so they can get closer to God.
And Jesus commanded it. And it's almost like he knew what he was doing with all the scientific benefits of it, right?
It's been around for centuries, y'all. Walking, grounding, fasting. What do you think Moses? What do you think Jesus? What do you think Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, all the great prophets did? They walked, they grounded themselves, and at one point, I'm pretty sure they fasted. They all had to fast just so they can get spiritually closer to God. Yeah. So if anything, me and Kim are challenging you, the people, to do those things exactly.
You can do it.
And most importantly, get back to reading the Bible. Yes. Start from scratch, from Genesis all the way to Revelations. As a matter of fact, I'm doing that right now as we speak. Kim has done it so many times before. She's done it how many times?
I've only done it once. I'll be honest. I've only done it once.
See, I'm trying
from start to finish.
That's what I'm trying to do too, as far as from start to finish. That's something that I'm challenging myself. So if anything, start with Genesis.
Yeah, you can start with Genesis, and I will jump in and say, I admire you, and I'm so proud of you for doing this, because I didn't think not that you wouldn't, but just you telling me, it's awesome. I think it's awesome. But I will say this: if you're struggling, if you're new to the Bible, if you're kind of like had a bad experience with it, maybe start in the New Testament. Maybe if you're curious to get to know Jesus more, and if you want to do a fast, I recommend starting with maybe Matthew. Start in the New Testament and get to know Jesus first. And then maybe if you feel comfortable, you can kind of like start from the beginning. You're brave and you're a boss for doing this, because not many people start from Genesis start to finish. It's very hard. Even I struggled with it. Not that I'm anybody of great importance, but it's a difficult book to read. Like we were talking about this earlier. There's some questionable stuff in the Old Testament. I see why he flooded the earth.
So if anything, start with Genesis, start with Exodus, and work your way all the way.
Learn your history, right? Where it all began. And then if
jump into the New Testament, understand Jesus Christ a little bit more, and then understand that everything that's going on right now is literally signs of what they talked about in Revelations. And then you'll see why I keep on saying that we are in the end times.
Yeah, and these are definitely the signs. And like you said earlier, I like how you mentioned that you were listening to it, because it's like an audiobook now.
Yeah, it is. Literally download the Holy Bible app on your phone. As a matter of fact, I will show it to you right now for everyone who's on YouTube right now. I am literally reading the Bible as we speak. The Holy Bible app, y'all.
It's just like that.
I'm literally right now reading Exodus, just for those who are watching on YouTube. So if anything, again, just...
So proud of you.
Thank you, Kim, because you inspired me when you said you read the Bible from start to finish. Now I'm implementing that into my routine as well.
I carry my Bible.
So get back to reading the Holy Bible. Get back to praying a whole lot more, because we're going to need it more so than ever. Get into deep meditations. Ground yourself. Fast at least, 24, 36 hours weekly, because we're supposed to be fasting at least once every 3 months, but that's what they don't want you to know. But we're here to tell you that it's very, very critical.
And if you're a beginner, start small.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, you're not just going to jump into the 36-hour fast right away, and that's okay. You got to build it up,
Got to crawl before you walk, right?
Definitely, and definitely take into account if you have any health issues. Don't be surprised when this reverses your health issues, because it will. It can and it will. But start small
and
just
work
do
your
a
way
few.
up.
One of my best friends, basically my sister out in California, she started doing, I inspired her too to start fasting. And so she was doing a water fast, and I was so proud of her when she told me she was doing it. And I was like, praise the Lord, right? Because I pray for her all the time. But when she started doing it, it's just like, she did a 24-hour fast, and I was like, whoa, that's awesome. So even if you start 10 hours, then the next day you do 16 hours, and maybe you wait a week in between each time, that's okay too. Eventually work your way up to the 24 and the 36 and the 48-hour fast.
The longest fast that I've done, Kim, is 60 hours so far.
Wow.
So I am challenging myself.
Good.
I'm challenging myself when the holidays come, those big meals that we like to have on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Here's the challenge that I'm throwing out to y'all. How about you go on a 3-day fast before Thanksgiving? That way, whenever you do eat that big feast,
earn it.
You can earn it. That's what I'm building my body and up for, to where whenever that does come, I'm definitely going to do at least a 2 to 3 day water fast where I'm just going to earn it, that meal completely. And I'm definitely going to do it for Christmas as well. And I'm more than likely going to start off 2025 by just going on a big old fast within itself, because man, you know how people like to party on the New Year's, right? So it's best to incorporate fasting into your overall regime. You'll be surprised on how much mental clarity you'll gain, the spiritual enlightenment, along with the physical evolution as far as removing all those diseases and toxins and all that within yourself. So again, just
resetting everything.
We need a reset. Take care of yourself before you try to take care of others. And at the same time, within everything that's going on in the world, do your research and fact check for your overall well-being before you try to jump shift to this certain opinion or this certain conclusion and base everything off of a certain hypothesis without even doing the actual experiment first. That's all that me and Kim are trying to say for those who may be offended by everything we've said in this particular episode.
Don't take our word for it. Yeah, don't take our word for it. Go fact check for yourself.
It starts with you, and it starts with God. And at the end of the day, it's going to end with God.
Mhm.
So remember that. That's all I have to say. And I feel like, hey, we're going to encourage y'all to keep on fighting because
Yes.
as we've said before from the first episode on, we're just going to keep peeling the onion back layer by layer to
Yep.
where we're going to we may even make some people cry with the smell of the onion and everything, but it's nothing personal.
No.
It's just like a viewer discretion is advised, maybe
Yeah.
potentially. But other than that, we're all about keeping the power of the truth alive as far as speaking the truth, hearing the truth, and most importantly, being open and honest in your communication,
Mhm.
because the truth is going to set you free. Because I don't know about you, I would rather be free by the truth than be locked in a world full of lies.
That's
As a
right.
matter of fact, this double down on that. I would rather be hurt by the truth
Ooh.
than be
Yes.
loved to lie.
Preach. And I love that. I love that you say that because that's so true. For everybody, that if we can get even just one person
It takes one person
to fact check what we're speaking of and to look into it and to do the research on it, drop a comment, leave a message if you want something that you want us to address. If you do fact check us and like maybe we do make a mistake, please bring it to our attention, because everything that we talk about,
this is an open, heart-to-heart, honest
Yes.
conversation.
We work really hard to kind of fact check each other and to look into what our topics that we're going to discuss and try to get as much factual evidence before we even come together.
And at the same time, which is why we encourage everybody to keep leaving those comments. We encourage everybody to download and stream every single episode of the Organic Combat Podcast. Have a discussion about this with your family and friends, and leave a comment about it below. And at the same time, subscribe to it as well, because we're going to be giving some very, very exclusive content on some very, very exclusive stuff coming very, very soon to a neighborhood near you. But with that being said, I think we've beat this horse to death enough for now. But until next time, episode 60 of the Organic Combat Podcast is now officially come to a close. We encourage everybody to stay prayed up. We encourage everybody to continue to grow through what you go through, continue to find room for improvement, learn from your mistakes, and continue to evolve physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to where you can be the best version of yourself, not only for you, but for everyone around you who you love and care about and who supports you the most, whether it's family, friends, significant other ones, for the parents out there, your kids, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Any last words, Kim?
No, you're absolutely right. Your loved ones deserve the best version of you. You deserve the best version of you. I think that you're going to be happier and healthier once you start looking into what you're feeding your mind, body, soul, and spirit. Just continue to put God first and look for Jesus in all things, even, praise him even through the storm.
Yeah.
And you will not be disappointed. So thank you guys for tuning in, and definitely let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about next.
Peace, love, and positive vibes, y'all. Till next time.